On April 6, 2023, the central government amended the Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code Rules 2021. These guidelines, as amended, pose a grave threat to the freedom of speech in our country. And let me explain that succinctly. Prior to this, that is under the 2021 rules, an intermediary per se was not responsible for the content that was hosted on its platform. But of course, the intermediary had a duty to inform the user through user agreements or through its privacy policy or even otherwise that a user of the platform should not host information or content to deceive or mislead the addressee about the origin of the message, or knowingly and intentionally communicate misinformation or information which is patently false or misleading in nature. Fair enough. I think that any user who did that would be liable under the law. But now what the government has done through this amendment is to put the onus on the intermediaries. And by virtue of the amendment, it requires the intermediaries to themselves look at the content and to figure out whether it is misleading or false or fake or it's a misrepresentation. And apart from that, this is in relation to the business of the central government. In other words, the intermediary has by itself to figure out content relating to the business of the central government, whether it is misleading, false, fake, or seeks to deceive or mislead the addressee about the origin of the message. Now, the amendment also states that they will set up, that the government or the central government will set up a committee which will determine whether that particular information or the content that is hosted on the social media platform is misleading, is false, it's fake, any part of that data is not correct. Unfortunately, the government will decide that on its own. In other words, through its own committee. So it will be a judge in its own cause. Now, the minister the other day said that this does not amount to censorship. Now, I don't understand how and why the minister could have said so. Because if that government committee decides that a particular piece of content that is hosted on the social media platform is misleading or false or the data is wrong, then the intermediary will have to remove it. Otherwise, the intermediary will become liable to prosecution and to court processes. Now, which intermediary in India, which is seeking business in India, would like to expose itself to court processes and to prosecution? So what it would do, it would follow strictly what that committee holds. And therefore, any content which the government does not like will have to be removed. Now, you know, and all of us know, that it is the social media platforms that are actually stating truth to power. It is the social media platforms that are criticizing the government for its policies. The mainstream media, obviously having been held captive by the government. So the mainstream media will not criticize the government. And now, by virtue of this amendment, the social media platforms will not be allowed to criticize the government. And anything that the government does not like, and that's entirely within the domain of the government. It's the government which will decide, or the committee that will decide what content is misleading or what content amounts to misleading. what content is false, what content is fake. And so now we are at a stage when slowly but surely, our freedom of speech, our right to voice our opinion is being silenced. It's time for us to speak up.